Woo! We're breathing it in.
We are.
Breathing in like a tree, Heather. Our roots
Yeah.
are seeping in to the soil. Our branches are stretching out. We are taking in the wind that the universe is providing. We are full of abundance.
Wow, I feel so
I'm
calm.
gonna start
Like I
crying.
could just listen to you.
And I'm like, me, can't meditate for shit. And listeners, we're gonna bring it in. Welcome to Virgo season. On the inside, I am screaming. Thank you so much. I'm Miranda Linsky. This is my co-host, Heather Cunningham. And folks, for those of you not watching the YouTube video, let me go ahead and plug the YouTube. It's Virgo season, Heather. Let me plug.
Let's plug.
Let's plug. For those of you who don't know or who maybe don't love to watch YouTube, but wouldn't mind as a listener, as a lover of the pod, giving us a little subscribey. Hollywood Horoscopes. We're on YouTube, baby. We upload all of these episodes to YouTube. And the reason I'm saying that is because one of our last episodes got some hits.
I know.
Huh, Heather? We caught the algorithm in a very real way. That was fun. That was very exciting. So yeah, folks, we're on YouTube. And for those of you who are avid listeners and have no future plans of going over to the YouTube, that's fine. I just need you to know Heather's hair looks gorgeous, and my God, and she stays complimenting mine. We don't need to talk about mine right now. It's up in a bun. It's a couple days not washed. All right, I'm gonna be honest on this podcast. It's a couple days not washed. It's up in a bun. We don't need to pay it any mind. But Heather got a fresh cut. She's bringing out the layers. We got the bounce, the buoyance.
Oh, thanks.
The chestnut brown, if we will.
Oh my God, stop.
Heather's looking gorgeous, and you deserve it because this Virgo season, she's been grounding.
I feel like the way I ground myself is to like feel good about my outfit, my hair. I'm like,
I'm getting a pedicure after this, and the way that dopamine is going to last for at least 30 minutes. Oh, you have no idea.
Oh my God. But that is actually such a Virgo thing to do that I think people don't talk about enough, is like doing little things like that, especially taking care of your body. And like, it doesn't have to be, I don't think Virgo is superficial or shallow or anything like that. It's not a waste of time or money to do little things like that to make yourself feel good. And, Virgo's all about the mind, body, spirit connection. Take care of your body, take care of the outward. It affects the inner. Take care of the inner. It affects the outward.
They really are. You're cracking me up over here, Heather, because as I love to talk about, my father, God bless him, shouts out, Drew Lenski, truly got to be one of the best Virgos I fucking know. I love Drew, and I'm very grateful to have been raised by a Virgo as a Pisces, because there's a lot when I'm organized or getting grounded. It's never my voice. When I'm emotional, when I'm feeling my feelies, when I'm kind of like, you could die tomorrow, Miranda. What's it gonna be? What's the choice? Let's outer scope. Let's zoom out. Come on. What's the bigger picture? That's my voice. It is always me. It is my Pisces ass. Absolutely at the front lines. When I'm getting organized, responsible, getting like a little kind of like bossy with myself in a good way, in a healthy way of like, all right, we got to get our shit together a little bit here. It is always Drew's voice. It is always my father. The earth tone in me literally always comes out as Drew's. It's so funny.
Makes sense.
That is how he is. And we grew up in Florida. I'm literally, again, I'm just here to plug the YouTube
Florida
channel.
State repping.
Yeah, I'm wearing for those of you, again, not watching, but if you want to, it's again, my look cannot be top tier today, folks. And we got Winona in the background. Come on.
Oh, precious.
Come on. But yes, repping Florida State. Growing up in Florida, my dad was like, Miranda, we live in Florida. We wear sandals. All you do is wear sandals here. You got to keep your feet looking nice. It was my dad preaching that. Never mind. I mean, my mom was who I was going to, the
and your
salon
mom's a
with.
Libra, and I would expect the same thing from a Libra, but I love that
Honestly,
it's the Virgo father who said that. Yeah.
he was a lot more vocal about it. And like
Right.
my mom's, she's the one I'm going to the salon with. My dad was not out there getting
Right.
pedicures, but you best believe I like grew up watching him out on the patio clipping his toenails. And like he's always had very nice looking feet. It's really funny. And he always like would dog on my Pisces grandfather for having like crusty
Funny.
feet and not like. And my dad is very much like it's extra funny because apparently he was always like that with his hair too growing up, and he had like the typical Farrah Fawcett haircut, and he was like a blonde, like he looked like a surfer. Grew up in Michigan though, but
Love.
truly blonde Farrah Fawcett. Like his high school photos, so quintessential 70s. It's very good. But my aunts would tell me later, they were cracking me up because my dad would he would refuse to use a blow dryer because that was for girls. And even though his hair is like past his shoulders and like longer than some of his sisters, he's like, I'm not using a blow dryer. But he would sprint from one end of the house out after the shower to get this like perfect like wind blown texture and like appearance. Like he was really kind of like finicky about it, but he wanted to look good.
That is hilarious.
But he's such a guy's guy too, and was such a like athlete, and like, but that's also what's so funny. Last thing I'll say, my last little quip about Drew. My dad was really good at wrestling. He found out like in a gym class. He loves telling the story. Virgo, but he loves his main character energy. But he was really like, he didn't know the like technical professional wrestling moves, and like it's a public school, so it's like the PE coach also coaches basketball and wrestling and football, yada yada.
Yeah.
But my dad wasn't able to get pinned by like the star wrestler. And it's just because he was like, I was really agile and just I didn't know how to pin him, but I knew how to continue to like keep moving on the mat so he couldn't pin me. And the coach like made him stay after class and was like, you gotta try out for the wrestling team. Like you'd be really good at it. You couldn't, that's one of our best wrestlers, and you don't even wrestle, and he couldn't pin you.
Wow.
Like really. And my dad refused because he didn't want to get cauliflower ear.
Yeah, valid.
And he was like, ew, the uniforms look so dweeby. Like he was like, you all look like idiots with your little earmuffs. And then even the earmuffs don't help me from getting cauliflower ear. And I got to wear that leotard. Like he literally, his whole decision was made because he's like, no, I'm not going to look like a fucking idiot.
Oh my God.
He could have had a career in it. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
that is so funny.
It's like that would drive his, just kind of funny.
That
and it's not funny. That he was like, he's never been like mean about looks or like judgy, but he just like, his appearance is important to him. He wants to look clean and
clean is
fresh
such
breath,
a Virgo. Sleek,
smelling nice,
well packaged,
the
body is sacred to Virgo. I feel like it's not something that's talked about enough, but really, I think a big part of the archetype is that mind, body, spirit connection. And it's interesting too, before we started recording, I was reading up on like the symbol for Virgo and the fact that it's the Virgin, which is such a fucking paradox because I've never met more sexual people in my life than Virgos.
Really?
Yes, but
the symbol is the Virgin.
The Virgin.
What do you mean by that, Heather? I'm sorry.
But it's more about, from my understanding, and I still want to understand it better, but from my understanding, it's more about the body being sacred and understanding that the body is yours, like
a temple.
Like, but like, also, even if you're just because you like have sex with someone doesn't mean that you're giving your body away. Like my body is mine. Like I am virginal just because I understand that like this is mine, this is sacred, and I keep it secret. It's a relationship with me. Yes, not anyone else. And that's interesting too on the Pisces. I know we'll get into this a little more. But Pisces is the opposite, and I feel like my planets in Pisces make me all. I don't want to put myself in precarious situations. Interesting. But go on. Yeah, but it makes sense that it's an earth sign, and it's the only earth sign that really is about the body, and it's the only earth sign that is also a relationship sign. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that Virgos are actually like incredibly sexual. From my
That's
experience,
funny.
like,
Interesting.
yeah.
I'll have to ask my dad.
I know. Let's talk about your dad. That's so funny.
I'll have to get his take on it. Just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, that's funny, especially with like, so it's like almost like it's like the power of you couldn't literally control my body if you wanted to. This idea
Right.
that my body could possibly belong to anyone but me is like laughable.
Yes.
So, and like, there's no wonder there's probably so much more energy of incompetence of being more sexual because of that, because you're so in control.
Yes.
And or in your relationship with your body is so yours.
Yes.
And no one else could fuck with it if they tried. That there's got to be like a confidence and like a what am I trying to say? Like just like a secureness and being like nothing. There no negative energy could penetrate my temple.
Exactly.
That's a really cool way to look at it. Think about it.
Yeah, I read this whole thing. Liz Green, I forget which book it was, but there was this whole section about Virgos and how a lot of the like sex worker clients she's had have been Virgos, but that they have the most interesting takes on sex. Yeah. Anyway.
Interesting. I'll have to call Drew.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
maybe he can.
How do we pivot back to?
Yeah, I'm like, let me cut out everything I just said when I brought up my dad. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, please. I think Drew was a little slut back in the day, happily so. As he should have been, and as should Kim. Shouts out to my Libra mother. But
does Drew have a thing about ironing his clothes? Or is that just
not so much ironing his clothes? Well,
even people I know who are just like I don't know.
He is
like,
just so finicky. It's so funny. I don't know if that's the right word for it. Finicky, but he is just so like
detail oriented or
yes. And he's so annoying, but like thank God I was raised with him because oh my God, the way my brain just doesn't sort of operate in that way. And
oh my God, same.
And he gets he's always even growing up again, it's kind of it's again, we're talking about my dad. So it's like obviously I'm like, yeah, I don't really know about the sex dream. This is the Virgo I'm like closest with, but all the ways in which I know him as my dad and the way he shows up as my dad are obviously very Virgo. But even when he was talking to me as a kid, or if I like messed up, or if I was just, he was never nagging at me or like railing on me. He was never that kind of father that was like trying to be a dick or controlling, or really, he wasn't even really strict, but he was more like, he would even say this, like, I'm looking out for you. He's like, you're my kid. I'm looking out for you. And I'm like, I'm sure that's obviously a father thing, but it would almost like frustrate him the way my mom wasn't organized. She's like, look at her. She's got things falling out of her purse. She's going to lose her money. She's going to leave things behind. Like, he was like, you always want to get your things secure, Miranda. You want to make sure you got enough gadgets. You want to put your things in your pocket. Like, he was always just like, and he's like, I'm not trying. And he would always say, I'm not trying to harp on you. I'm not trying to harp on you. He was always gentle. And he was like, I'm just looking out for you. He's like, this is shit I wish I knew. Like, he's got a very, while he is Virgo and very earth in that way, he's older now, and I'm like wondering how much of the Virgo Pisces line of that like kind of shows through. And he's always been very spiritual, always been without and never religious. Like, let me be so clear, never. I would always classify him as spiritual. I would not classify him as religious, which is really interesting. Oh, and the alien shit, he's just eating it up, loves it, living for it, knew it was coming, can't believe it's in his lifetime. Oh, he's just so excited. But yeah, so it's like the ways he, I know him as my dad, and those are the ways. It's just like he is so Virgo. So funny. But then also on the flip side of that, he can be late a lot.
Oh,
which I find interesting. But I also, he's been at his job for like over 20 years, and he's really comfortable there, and he's like the boss. So it's like, I think he can be. He tries not to be, but he's really always been. Even when he's having fun, there's been a responsibility to it. But again, I know him as my dad, and he's older. So I'm like,
there is that.
The last thing I will just say, and I've always thought this, and I love my mom to death, and we all have relationships with our moms, our dads, blah, blah, blah. A mother and daughter's relationship is very sacred. I don't know if my mom and I would have necessarily like kicked it if we were alive at the same time.
Yeah.
We were born like in the same era.
Yeah.
And we were the people we are.
Yeah.
But my mom is the reason I say that, because she was always like, you're so out. I was not ever as outgoing. I probably would have been intimidated by you, or I would have been really shy. Like, she was like, I was also like a drinker in high school. I was a little partier. She's like, and you're not like that, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, no, mommy, I'm not in college yet. Wait till I go to my first Clemson game.
Wait till I meet Heather.
But like my mom, I disagree with her because I like her as a human, and I do think we would have been friends, but that was something she always said. My dad and I, though, it's one of those things where I'm like, we totally would have been buds.
Right.
Like, I just really think we could have been friends in another life as well. Like that's almost like the vibe, like that's kind of like the level of like, I'm able to talk to my dad about shit, and I feel really lucky for that. And he's always been really like real about, like, he's very conversational, very like, he loves conversing with people. And that's where I do see the Virgo Pisces trait. I think that's the way that's some of my favorite moments of life, just having a conversation with someone like late at night, when maybe everyone else has gone to bed or blah blah blah. That's like his too.
Oh,
it's interesting.
Sweet.
Heather, I'm so sorry. We cannot make this whole podcast episode about my fucking dad.
Sure, we can.
And with that, we should start moving into these charts.
Yeah, we should.
How we take a pause here before we lose our. Okay. I promise not to make the whole episode about Drew. We will be moving more on into Virgo. It was just, he could not be more Virgo if he tried.
Relevant.
Very relevant. Unfortunately, so relevant. And then he raised a little Pisces, and then had deep, meaningful conversations with her growing up all through her little life about spirituality and the bigger picture. And then they wonder why I became a theater major and followed my heart.
Yeah, come the fuck on.
You did this, you two parents.
Your fault.
Love them to death. Love them both to death. Heather, Virgo, my God. I know I was talking about this off the pod recently, as in 5 seconds ago. But when I was like journaling a couple days ago, and the way I literally described as when I was journaling, I was like, I just feel like there's a fire under my ass to get grounded. And I was like, bitch, you just described the Leo new moon moving into the Virgo sun season. Like, I realized as I was journaling that I didn't even put the two and two together in the moment. That's just how I described the feeling. And then you just reminded me, Heather, in a couple days, we're shifting into that Pisces full moon, Virgo's opposite. And no wonder my ass has been dealing with a lot of existential themes recently, a lot of big spirituality, or just a lot of big spiritual reflection. And as you just reminded me, we got this Mercury in retrograde, right?
Yes. Yes. So lots of reflection.
Oh my God.
Saturn is in Pisces for, it's been there for almost a year, and then we'll be there for another year, and it's our Saturn returns. But because Saturn is in Pisces, there is like especially a Pisces emphasis, I think, to this Virgo season, because the Virgo sun is opposing that Saturn in Pisces. So it is sort of like balancing those two energies, I think. And the Mercury retrograde is always reflective.
Yes. And then again, so I just want to, sometimes I get ahead of myself, Heather, and I want to do my due diligence of being the astrology dum-dum. But like, when you, just for the listeners who might just be tuning in, or just to help in general, the beginners, when you say that, like, when we talk about Pisces and Virgo sharing an energy, do you mind just talking about that again as a reminder for me and the listeners of like what that kind of like, how every sign has sort of like this sister soul mate sign? Go on. You'll explain it.
Well, astrology is very mathematic. And
Facts,
there are
science.
No, it's true. And there's
it is.
Virgos will love this, but there's 12 signs.
12 signs.
Even number.
Even number.
Separating into a perfect little pizza pie. And yeah, so each sign has its opposite sign. So Aries is the first sign. Its opposite is the 7th sign of Libra. Taurus is the 2nd sign. Its opposite is the 8th sign of Scorpio. And so when you get to Virgo, which is the sixth sign of the zodiac, the halfway point, its opposite is the last sign, Pisces. And they always deal with kind of the same theme, but in opposite ways.
Because they're different. Usually there's no two signs are the same. Excuse me. No two signs that are matched are the same element, correct?
Correct.
They're all different. So the way that Virgo is earth and Pisces is water, but yet they share this like similar themes because they're on the same degree or the same line across from each other.
Yes. And I believe all the fire signs are opposite air signs and all the earth signs are opposite water signs, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
For me and the listeners.
Yeah. So and that kind of helps. Like you know, fire and air are opposite, earth and water are opposite. It's
well, and isn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but whenever we're in whatever Jesus, right now, the way the astrological year is unfolding and the way, as we've talked about, because the year previous in 2022, the new moons were in the same sign that the sun was also shifting in. And now the way it's just like folding out this year, the new moons are at the beginning of the sun sign, but they're in the previous signs energy. Right. Which is just kind of like, sorry, that's confusing. I'm sure I didn't explain that correctly. But
I think what's occurring is we're having like the full moons first. So we just entered Virgo season and we're going to have the Pisces full moon right at the start of it. And then the Virgo new moon isn't going to happen until another 2.5 weeks.
Yes. So, and it was just reversed in 2022. The new moons of that sign were coming before.
The pattern just shifted. Like,
but correct me if I'm wrong. Every full moon when the sun is in a sign, the full moon that sign experiences is always its opposite.
It's opposite.
Like the full moon that happens in Virgo every time is always in Pisces, and vice versa. When the sun is in Pisces, the full moon that happens during Pisces is always in Virgo. Correct?
Right. Mm-hmm,
amazing.
Yeah.
So that's always the way to know the energy too.
Yeah. And it's, when you look at the natal chart, the moon takes a full month to travel around the whole zodiac chart. Right. And when you're, say, born on a new moon, you have the sun and moon usually in the same sign right next to each other. And it looks like a new moon because the sun is blocking some of the moon's light. And then when it's full, it's opposite on the complete opposite end of the chart. And yeah, I don't know. It's cool to think about it that way, and the journey that the moon takes throughout the month of illuminating something about that sun sign energy, and then having a full circle moment and then starting over again. Yeah. It's beautiful.
It is. And it was just so fun to be journaling, and like I have a weekly podcast devoted to this shit. And I still, as I was journaling, didn't catch myself in the moment being like, realizing I was describing the energy of the Leo new moon as we shifted into Virgo. So funny. And then of course now the Mercury in retrograde and the Pisces full moon on the horizon is making me realize that and have the perspective. It's science, facts, math, folks. We cannot make it up if we tried. You think we're making this up? Oh my God, come on. I'm exhausted. All right. Thank you, Heather.
NASA's gonna eat their words in the next 100 years at least.
Is NASA shitting on Hollywood horoscopes?
No.
They tagged us
recently.
Big,
they might. Yeah.
When NASA, it's
NASA
just
loves to at astrology in general, and
NASA's full of a bunch of Virgos.
They don't fucking even realize that it's math. It's anyway.
It's all the female NASA scientists are in on it. It's the
I'm sure.
But like again, astrology does just like, we talk about this before really quick, Heather. like the feminine and masculine energy that the universe sort of puts out. And not to say that there's like a man energy and a woman energy, but it's like the astrology to me is very much in the feminine. It is not precise. It's not like well, it is. Well,
it is, but usually the hook in is intuitive.
Yes. And like I think that's why it is so interesting that I find that a lot of women are more inclined to, or a lot more, I guess I should say, feminine folks I know, not just women, but like more more people who I know who are more in touch with their feminine side embrace astrology usually better and enjoy it. And I do think there's just kind of like a natural bridge of intuition. And if you've spent your entire life not realizing that a lot of like the energy, I don't know, if you just spent your entire life thinking from a logistical place or believing that you're not operating from intuition, it's got to be harder to like embrace it. And then I think once you really embrace astrology due to your intuition, you realize how much of it is just making fucking observations.
Literally.
So NASA would actually have a ball. They love making observations and hypotheses. We will, Heather. Anywho, Z, and with that, I know we got to move into these charts, but before we do, Heather, before we move in, sorry, there's a fly in here. You see what I'm dealing with?
Oh my God.
Before we move into these Virgo charts, is there anything specific of this extra about this Virgo time, Heather, that you wanted to touch on? I know we'll get more into the details of the movement in the sky closer to closing, but like in terms of just listeners, y'all doing okay? I'm like, Heather, what do we
There's
do? We
a lot
throw
going
a life
on.
jacket
Well,
out.
it's interesting.
Heather, tell them they'll be okay. Tell us.
It's gonna be okay, but it's a year of shifts and changes. The nodes just changing signs. I cannot tell you how much I'm hearing of couples breaking up. I feel like every day it's a new couple that's breaking up, or the opposite. I've also seen, some couples reinvigorating their relationship in a really positive way, but it just feels like fucking shifts and changes are upon us.
Wow.
Regardless of whether we want it or not. And it's interesting that we're in Virgo season at the halfway point of the zodiac, and that it started with Mercury retrograding, and Venus has been retrograding all summer. It's not done. So that's our two of our main personal planets are retrograding during this Virgo time. That's about like catching up, taking care of details, taking care of work, cleaning up after Leo. So it's like, it's a good opportunity to ground, and it's definitely important to take care of those details, but at the same time, you have to be kind of flexible, I think, this Virgo season. And Virgo is a mutable sign, so it is good at adapting. But yes, we're all gonna be okay. But I think it's I don't know, it helps me to understand that change is an inevitable part of life. And so is that Pisces cyclical, existential, acceptance. It's all a part of life. But
it is, I feel like, and I just feel like there's a huge part of Earth that has, I could totally, let me know if I'm completely missing the ball on this, Heather, but I feel like earth signs get a rep for, they're controlling, or can be more anal about like control and being organized. And I think it's not so much like, at least specifically when I think of Virgo, it's like control of what you can, not what you can't. Control over what you can control, and not, there just has to be an acceptance and an overall belief of trust in the universe of the shit you can't. Because that is just like our reality. And I feel like there is almost like a Virgo. I feel like Virgo maybe is more accepting of that than Pisces. Because Pisces, this whole thing is just like, I think looking so existential and so, I don't know, maybe the acceptance thing is the wrong word I'm trying to say, but there's something about, I like how Virgo gives off the energy of, it's like, it's not trying to be controlling for the sake of controlling. It's like, exactly the things I can control, taking care of my body, making sure I'm healthy from the inside out. Like, I can't control the things on the outside, but the shit I can, you best believe I'm gonna have it unlock. It feels like the vibe, if that makes sense. And so I'm personally trying to focus on that.
Yeah.
Controlling the things I can, breathing and accepting the things we can't. Like, I don't know. Whereas I feel like Capricorn can have an overall control vibe. Even on
so can Taurus.
So I want to be very clear when I'm speaking about like Virgo, it feels like it falls into, like you said, it's mutable. So maybe it's more of like, I don't know if that's why I get that energy, and it's a little more accepting of like going with the flow.
Yeah, no, that would make sense because mutable is. I know I need to think about it more. And to be honest, I don't have a lot of Virgos in my life. And I'm thinking about like the reality stars that are a little bit like chess players within their cast. And that is a Virgo thing of being like, I know exactly where to put this to make this happen, and that kind of thing. But no, I think there's something to what you're saying. I think that it is way more about the mind, body, spirit connection. It's mutable, it's adaptable. So there is a sort of, And they do say that Virgo is very accepting over everyone being themselves. And that's something I was just reading in like a fucking Vogue article or something right before I.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I need to think about that more.
It's a fun. Also, I just realized, Heather, too, this is our first official sign that we are
already
doubling
covered.
up on. Yeah. And it's tricky because I think we only did 1 week of Virgo, which was like our very first episode ever. And I think it was just like we popped off with Virgo and then immediately went into Libra. I want to say, because of just like the timing.
We only did 1 Virgo episode. You're right.
But it's so fun circling back onto Virgo. And then in this Mercury retrograde of like reflecting on our past year. And just what a time. And it is interesting to hear because I guess I don't know. It's just Virgo's a interesting time, and I'm realizing we didn't do a full month in it last time, and so I'm having like, it feels like it's new, but we've also covered it. So this is a fun little realization as we're coming up on a year of the podcast, y'all. Couple episodes here, we'll be at our year. Okay, sorry.
Wow.
Circling back. All right, Heather, and we'll get more into the sky, of course, but shall we go ahead and jump into these Virgo charts?
Yes.
This Virgo I'm gonna be covering today, folks, bringing in I fucking love her. Like, she is not slowly but surely is like the time is here, it's arrived, it's been here, it's happening before our very eyes. Zendaya. That's right, Virgos love one names: Beyonce, Zendaya,
the
Nick
simple,
Jonas.
the sleek. Yeah.
Nick Jonas, all one word. But like,
You're right. Lala on Vanderpump.
Oh, yeah. Virgos they're so about their.
Yeah.
I think Virgo too, in the way that it's about its appearances, it also is very much about how it's perceived. I could be totally wrong on that. And I want to be clear when I say that. I feel like Virgo gives a shit what people think in a way. Not that I'm saying that Virgo's afraid to be itself or doesn't feel like it can express itself. That's not what I mean at all. I just feel like Virgo doesn't want, it gives a shit if you, Virgo has an energy of like giving a shit of like what you think and the way it's perceived, because like I feel like Virgo goes out of their way to be respectful, kind, aware. Like there's a self-awareness to Virgo.
Oh, for sure. It's the Earth relationship sign.
Right.
It's the most perfectionistic sign.
Ooh.
And it's the mind body sign. So of course, I think putting all of that together, yes, they're all about the package and perfecting everything. Yeah.
Yes. And like kind of the self-work and like
putting
totally.
It like, and a more
that
spiritual
earth way.
Yeah.
And like in that earth way, not afraid to get the hands dirty, not afraid to look inward and like do that and like take that time to better thyself. Love it. Zendaya embodies that to me in every way. One of like became not an overnight success. She's just been successful, been in a lot of heavy hitting things, but she's so fucking charismatic and likable and just an unproblematic queen in a way that like a lot of celebrities do, and you can tell that they've had PR coaching. You can tell that they're watching what they say for the sake of like, I don't want to ruin my money, blah, blah, blah. But Zendaya just feels like there's not a PR coach in the world that's like, now you can't be offensive, okay? Or like, you just like, she has such a way, I feel like I'm getting to see the authentic real her, which again, I'm saying that with an asterisk. We don't know celebrities, yada, yada. But like the ability to just be so like, yeah, hey, I'm Zendaya, one word, but I'm just the girl next door. Like,
yeah,
you're one word, you're famous by one word, by your one word name, Zendaya, and you're on one of the biggest HBO shows of all time. And you were just in Dune, and that's coming out in a series alongside Timothy motherfucking Chalamet. Like, she's all over the place. She's dominating. She's so talented and deserves to have one of the biggest heads in the world. And it's always just so refreshing when like, I genuinely believe I don't believe she's putting that on for like appearances. Like, I gotta look humble. I think she is. And I could totally have this wrong. Alex Nightingale will correct me, I'm sure, but I want to also say she is not a nepo baby. Straight up. Like, I want to say her mom was a teacher.
A bit of research. Her mom was a stage manager. So she grew up in theater.
Okay.
Apparently she spent her youth in the Shakespeare Theater Company because her mom was always stage managing there, and then she started taking classes in their youth program, and then that's how she got into acting, which is a way more grounded, like
that's so Virgo
space, you know, theater,
to be a student, and then also to like the love of like being
to be a student, totally,
to be taught and to like learn your craft,
like something so with so much integrity, and then
she's just beautiful. Like, she's just
gorgeous, which is also such a Virgo thing. I think that also speaks to the like body.
She's radiant. Yeah.
Like, so many Virgos are just effortlessly fucking stunning.
Like, attractive. Yeah. Oh my God. Zendaya is so fucking hot. But like that, and then it can just be like, what? I'm Zendaya. Like, you know, like that's such a, that's so earth. That's so earth. And she exudes that. And then, sorry, Heather, I was gonna do her going to share her top 3 with the folks. Yes, Virgo sun, Taurus moon, and then Aquarius rising. So we've got some double earth, and then mix that in with that air. Like, she just that I found her Taurus moon to be very interesting. And I know that there's kind of a connection to our next chart as well, Heather. Like, exactly, to want to be a student, to start in the theater. Like, Zendaya also, like, don't get me wrong, like, that's what I mean by she's so pretty. She doesn't have to be talented. Like, at that point, she's so pretty. She could just be a model. Like, she wouldn't even have to, like, which is a talent in itself. But I'm more just saying, like, I feel like we all understand kind of sort of what's happening in the world of Hollywood, and what's always kind of happened in Hollywood, that like, unlike theater, Hollywood, you don't necessarily always have to have the acting chops. If you look a certain way or have a certain part and you look good for the film, you're in it. A lot, you know, or like it can be a little more on the superficial end. I think the fact that she grew up in theater and probably was devoted and saw herself being in theater too. Like, there was always an understanding when you do theater compared to film. Theater, you don't always have to be the most attractive. It's not about that. It is a lot more like merit based in terms of, can you sing, dance, act, like, blah, blah, blah. And the chops have to be there. And there is something about Zendaya that's like, I'm sure she knows she could have taken that other road. Maybe she didn't. She was just a kid falling in love with her craft, maybe when she was younger. But like, it to me, it reads that shit's important to her. Being talented and good at this. She's a competitor. Like, I get a competitive vibe from her against like herself, not like in a, you get it. There is like a.
I think also, speaking for what I know of Taurus, having a Taurus moon with that strong sense of values, but also quality, she could have taken, I'm sure she was offered so many roles, but she was very selective, which is very Virgo and Taurus, and, chose that Euphoria role where she isn't playing a pretty girl. It's a fucking hard character to make likable. And
messy,
but she took a risk with that. But because it's such a Taurus Virgo risk, I think, of like being very selective, knowing that this is like quality. And I don't think she just takes whatever role falls on her lap. I think she's very thoughtful about it.
Yeah, I would agree. No, absolutely. And then I don't know if you can see anything like else in her chart, Heather. I know that sometimes like this happens based on like her placements or the degrees, but like, does it seem like she has a chart that's like destined for what she's doing?
So it's interesting because when I first looked at it, I was like, this doesn't really read to me as an actor's chart, but she wears many hats. I mean, I was reading her biography. She does modeling. She's also a dancer. And like she was a background dancer for a Selena Gomez music video and stuff.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, like she was like doing dance. Like there's so many other avenues that she could have like really. But anyway, so I don't get an actor's chart necessarily. I do get certain quote unquote faded placements for being in the public. There's this grand trine with all the earth signs. So the sun in Virgo in the 7th, moon in Taurus in the 3rd, also connecting to Jupiter, the great, abundant, lucky planet in the 11th, which deals with the public and your dreams and wishes and your place among the collective. So that's a nice grand trine. And then she also has 2 trines connecting Pluto, which is the planet of power and fate. And that's right on the midheaven, the career point, in trine to Saturn and Aries, and Venus and Mars and Cancer. And I think the Venus and Mars and Cancer is what makes her a good actress and able to tap into those emotions.
Oh, literally. That's really interesting to hear that it doesn't read so much as or like what you would normally see from like a stereotypical actor's chart. Because I want to say maybe her dad was a teacher, or maybe she was going to go into teaching. There's a story somewhere where her dad, I think, either taught, and like that was like her plan until this like took off. I could totally be making that up. But to me, it's like, if that's not even like teaching, I know isn't necessarily something that makes someone famous, but there is still like a public figure-ness to it, because you're like in front of a group of people. You become like the school
you have to command a room. You have to
command. Yeah, there's a performance aspect to teaching. And I would learn anything from her. I would follow her off the cliffs. Like
100%.
I feel like if she wasn't doing this, and if I do have this right, and she was thinking about teaching, yeah, I just like, I could see that too. And I love that she, a lot of times too, like before Euphoria will come out, she'll like post on Instagram, or she'll make like a social post where she's like, hey, I know that we have a lot of fans and people who watch this show, and it's a popular HBO show, but also we're going to be touching on, there's some heavy shit this episode. Like she cares about the viewers who are watching. Yeah, she's like, hey, this might be heavy. Totally okay if you can't keep up with it or watch it. Like, it's crazy that in real time as the show is coming out, she's like putting post up with these episodes, the details, like just the fucking the care.
She's a queen. She's so mature.
Really. What a topsy-turvy episode this has been, Heather. Just topsy-turvy. Oh my God, speaking Alex Nightingale.
British accent. Speaking of Alex Nightingale and British accent. Wait, I'm trying to find the chart.
Topsy-turvy. I just watched Pride and Prejudice because she made me.
Isn't it amazing? That is like my favorite love story.
When did you watch it? How old were you when you watched it? Besides Twilight, Heather, you've never been more accurate or on point in your life, and I say that to you often.
I read the book when I was trying to be a pretentious intellectual in high school. And
Aquarius.
But the movie I think came out, literally. The movie came out around then too. And
2005, yeah.
Yeah. Or I guess it came, whatever. I think I watched it in high school. Both. But like, yeah, there's something about the fucking stoic guy who's not giving you affection that is just, and then he pours his heart out. Oh my God, it's like made for me.
Mr. Darcy. He says, I love you. Ardently. Ardent. But I had to watch it because, well, Alex and I had plans to watch it together, but then, oh my God, I got sick and yada yada, and I was like, it's on, it's here, I'm watching it. I can't believe I've never seen it before.
It is the best.
I can't believe I did that to myself.
It is the best. I watched it again pretty recently with Christian, and I was like, this is the best. It's the best.
So good.
And her character is amazing. Like it.
And Keira.
I love Keira Knightley.
Thank you, Keira Knightley.
I think she might be a Virgo.
I was just gonna say, but also she's also I think she is, first of all, but second of all, and we'll do her later. But she's so good in these like old British rose, like these Shakespearean ass, like, God, she's got that shit down.
I know. She
talking
really
about
does.
like classically fucking trained. Like
Emma
she's
Watson
also
could never.
And I love Emma Watson. I really do. But why can't I not say her name today? Keira Knightley.
Do you want to say Kiara?
I do. Keeks. Shouts out to Kiara. Anyways, yeah, she's just so good at that. But then I love Succession. So seeing Mr. Darcy, who plays, I don't know his name, I can't think of his name in real life, but he plays Tom in Succession. Well, I'm like, it's crazy. Oh my God, his range
really?
Impeccable. And that's what I would watch Succession with Alex, and she was always talking about his range and how like she was like, you have to watch him in Pride and Prejudice, and yeah, it blew me away. Anyways,
cool.
Shouts out to Alex Nightingale in that one.
Always. It's
Virgo, so I'm gotta check off all the things, all the tasks she gave me before she moves. I don't want to talk about it. Any whoozy, I know. And Alex has been giving me shit. Okay, the last I'm like, I swear we're not going to tangent anymore, Heather. But I've been getting shit from Alex because she's like, everyone's trying to hang out with me before I move. Where are you? And I did get really sick, and so I had to like stay away from her, which was really annoying. Yeah. But I also was like, you're seeing my Pisces in real form. I'm escaping this because I don't want to deal with it. And she's like, I know. And my Libra's over this shit. And like, it's just so funny how I was like, my Pisces isn't facing reality on this and refuses to accept it.
I talked to my Pisces wax specialist about that the other day when she was waxing my vagina.
It's my favorite place to talk about astrology, honestly.
Right?
In the middle of a wax.
Right. Okay.
And let's circle back. Okay. Let's Virgo ourselves here, Heather. All right. As I got us off on that tangent. But this next chart, shall we? All one word, Nick Jonas.
All one word, Nick Jonas. Had to do a British accent, although he like hardly did in Les Mis.
That's right.
But yeah, Nick Jonas, Virgo sun, Taurus moon, just like Zendaya, and just like me, Leo rising.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the thing that struck me the most and looking, so there I hate to say this, but because it's, I feel like the listeners don't really care, but like this chart has so many similarities to my own, like all of the placements. It's actually kind of crazy. Pluto in the 4th, opposite moon in the 10th, conjunct midheaven, the Leo rising, the Taurus moon. But then
you gotta
Saturn,
start a band, Heather. You gotta start a band with your brothers.
Yeah, I guess so. Gina, sister, let's do this.
But but Saturn in the 7th in Aquarius is something that I struggle with the most in my chart, and I think it's really interesting that Nick married Priyanka, and that Priyanka is 41 years old and he is, I want to say, 30 years
12.
old.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna look up his age. No,
but there is quite a
big 8, like 11 years or something. And they say that Saturn in the 7th house of marriage and one-to-one relationships, that, like I've said before, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. You have to like wait till after your Saturn return usually to like have a good steady relationship. And then you get married, you take relationships very seriously. But they also say that because Saturn is the mature sign, and if it falls in your 7th of relationships, that you often, there's a stereotype of marrying way older, and like that's such a obvious thing with women. Like I don't know, but it's really interesting seeing Nick Jonas, who's we all kind of like still think of as like a little boy,
a little
baby, like marrying someone way older. But that is so Saturn in the 7th.
Wild. That's so wild, Heather, that's something like in their chart. Because I remember when that happened too, and so many people were like,
what?
Of course, mad. So many of the fans were like, what? And I think a lot of it was just like the fans being like, my chances are over.
Right.
But it also, I feel like it also came as a surprise. It was like I remember it being kind of like a shocking thing, or like people, it was like, I don't think even a lot of people knew they were dating, let alone like, but I remember kind of being like, this is weirdly the hottest Nick Jonas has ever like looked to me and seemed to me, because like his confidence and the way that so many people were like dogging it, and they doubled down. And I want to say like at 3 different weddings or 4 or something.
I watch this Indian reality show, and they do like week-long weddings. It's insane.
Oh,
it's like
so
a
it's
marathon.
Okay.
That's like part of the tradition and the culture there.
Oh, that makes
So
sense.
I'm sure that's
well, and
probably why.
I also just know celebrities do. That's like a thing.
No,
they
of
just, like,
course. But
they also both have a
especially
ton of money, but that makes sense
if
too.
one person in the couple's Indian and the
Traditionally,
other's
yeah.
American, they'll often have all the Indian weddings, and then they'll also do the American version. So it's like it's a lot.
Right. You're covering all the bases. Yeah.
But yeah.
No. And I remember, I just it is interesting. And I think we've watched like I think there's a lot of maturity that happened with Nick and a lot of the brothers, like obviously behind the scenes, because it's like they became this band, a very successful boy band, you know, when we were younger, like middle school. I think was like as young as I was when the Jonas Brothers like came around, and they were also in middle school, I want to say. And like,
yeah, they're like our age. Nick's 30. I just looked it up.
Yeah, that's right. It's coming to like watching these people like these little boys our age come to fame like through Disney Channel and all this, and become little heartthrobs. And they were so successful. It wasn't like they got to an age where they all started doing drugs and fell off. I just remember they stopped, and I never really knew why. And I don't think a lot of people really knew why. They just decided to stop. And then I forget the name of the documentary, but the Jonas Brothers had a documentary come out. And basically Joe and Nick too, they've always kind of had the beef. Like they've always, and even in this documentary a little bit, they're the ones sort of like more at war with each other than Kevin is with either of them. But Kevin off in the wings. God bless him. But it's like always been about like Joe and Nick. And even when it was like when we were younger, and even still today, it's like, are you a Joe girl or a Nick girl? And Kevin is just out in the wings with Frankie, who no one cares about. Anyway, but like it is interesting when we talked about, I want to say we figured this out, Heather, that Joe is a Leo, or like he also has Leo in his chart. And then something else, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I want to say Joe's the Leo sun.
I think that's also, it makes sense why they compete. They're they're closer in age, and then also
all that Leo.
they both have similar like talents and similar charts, and it's really interesting. But according to this documentary, and according to Joe, and then even Nick in the documentary, it was Nick Jonas. Nick Jonas is the reason the Jonas Brothers ended. It was him and his fucking solo career, essentially. And but like it wasn't something they discussed as like a group. Like we find out in this documentary years later that Nick just sort of told them, hey, band's over, I'm going solo. And that was like it. There was no like discussion. So Joe and they were hurt. This wasn't just like the band broke up. Like this was drama for their family for the past few years. Like the brothers had real beef because Joe was like, you just ended it. You just ended it. It wasn't up to anybody else. And then Joe had his own little solo career. Cake by the Ocean. God damn,
I love that
song.
Yeah,
I know.
It does slap.
And then like people love to forget about Joe's career, and then because Nick was over there being like,
so good.
I still get jealous. God, they both did so good in their solo careers, but that's why I was like, come back together, boys. And they did. And like it was a beautiful, like I literally felt like in this documentary we're watching the Jonas Brothers in the middle of their Saturn return. I'm not kidding. And it makes sense because of like the age. This documentary is only
I guess they were
a couple years old. And Joe's like, I think a little older, like Nick's our age, but Joe is a little older, so him entering like his Saturn return. And it was a huge, like, this band was successful and we didn't need to break up. And they have like this whole like that's what the documentary is, like them healing and forgiving each other, and then like going back on tour, and now they're back together. But like, all this to say, yes, I think Nick, while he was the youngest, you know, I don't think Joe ever did Broadway like Nick did. Nick was always very like, and he could do that thing, you know, the falsetto, and then could do like, looking at Nick's chart, it's just the way it's so earth grounded. I have a firm belief that Nick was the reason the whole band was as successful as it was. I mean, they're a bunch of cute brothers in a band on the Disney Channel. Like, it's going to go well. But I do think the drive and to like make it what it is was a lot of Nick. And he was also, I want to say, like, they did write their songs and Nick was a lead songwriter, very like Beyonce when she was with Destiny's Child. Like I do.
Yeah.
And then Nick did, while Joe still had a pretty successful career, Nick's solo career was definitely, I think, heightened and bigger than Joe's. We can all agree. And it gives me that, who Beyonce is also a Virgo, but gave me that same like feeling of like, Beyonce was always, even though they were a group, it was like Beyonce was the
Anchor.
visionary, the producer, the the anchor. And I think the same about Nick.
No, I think you're
Jonas
right.
Brothers.
I think you're right. And Saturn
Especially
in
when
the
that-
seventh, opposite that Leo rising, takes it all very seriously. The Taurus moon in the 10th takes it all very seriously. Virgo too. And there was some I read that Nick was on Broadway when he was like 7 years old as
he was a
Tiny
Broadway
Tim
baby.
in like Christmas Carol. So it doesn't surprise me that he is probably the one who catapulted it all.
I think Nick he just always had the voice, especially as a little kid too, who could falsetto, and then like was really took the shit seriously, was like very grounded for a kid. It's like, I feel like so many people don't realize to be really talented is only like half the battle. To hone
You
it
have to
in,
want to do
into
it.
like, because the career part of that is all, where did I go? Where did I just go? I took a helium balloon ride up to the skies. Did you hear that, Heather? Because like the real work of getting a career at that magnitude and level, so many more talented people would have it. It is such that's a full-time job completely separate. And that's why a lot of people don't make it. Or again, the Nepo baby connect. But I don't think the Jonas Brothers were Nepo babies.
I don't think they were.
Grew up in Jersey.
Right.
And I think Nick just was talented enough that he could audition and get. But to continue to be doing it still is very impressive and hard. And it's why a lot of people can't and don't. His Earth is like, I think I can imagine he was the leader and also being the baby, and then the one with sort of the like who had been working in the professional entertainment career technically the longest at 7, like before all of his brothers. Like it's an interesting dynamic. Oh, it's so fucking Virgo with him. Sure. It's so funny. So funny. It's giving Beyonce. And
he has Jupiter conjunct the sun with Mercury there, which is so fucking nice. That is just like a very lucky position. You can see the abundance before you. Grab it by the horns.
Or those Calvin Klein undies, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god. Do we remember that commercial, folks? I digress. Anything else, Heather, about sweet baby Nick Jonas?
I think that's the main thing.
That we gotta hit. That's so interesting about the like the chart of dating maturing and being with someone older.
Oh my God,
that's so funny.
His wife was 10 years older and he didn't really establish that relationship until Saturn returned.
Yeah, that's true. It's so true. Gorgeous.
Love.
Couple of fun charts. Zendaya, Nick Jonas, couple of one name Virgos. Come on the show. Get your asses up here. Come on. Hang out with us. We know both those Virgos would too, don't we, Heather?
Oh, they would.
Both those Virgos would ground it down for us.
And sing show tunes.
The show tunes.
It'd be fun.
Speaking of Virgo, Heather, we really are in it. We're in the Virgo depths. What do you got for me and the listeners, Heather? Gods be good. I've been rewatching House of Targaryen.
Oh.
And I keep going, Gods be good. Heather, what's in store?
It's an active week.
God. We never get a break.
Not this year.
My Pisces ass is like, no more existentialism, please.
I know. Well, we just we're recording this on Thursday, the 24th. We just entered Virgo yesterday on the 23rd, on the same exact day that Mercury started going retrograde in Virgo. So lots of Virgo activity there. Also, Mercury is Virgo's ruling planet. So Virgo already brings up like communication and details and the need to edit. But that's especially emphasized this week, especially as Mercury goes retrograde. As we said, it's reflective. Gotta edit, gotta pay attention to the details, but take your time.
And on the 27th, we have our first little dip into air sign territory with Mars entering Libra, which is interesting because Mars is Aries planet of doing, of action, of how you go about getting what you want. It's the fighting planet. But in Libra, it's not that strong because Libra is all about harmonizing, getting along, you know, being pleasant. So Mars enters Libra on the 27th. We have our first air sign energy happening. And then on the 28th, Uranus, which has been wreaking havoc in my chart, is going to station retrograde in Taurus. And then we have a shit ton of planets retrograde. I think more planets retrograde than not. So that's the day after. And then on August 30th, we have the Pisces full moon. So there's a lot of different parts of the zodiac wheel being activated, like Libra, Virgo, Taurus, also Pisces, a lot of different sections of your chart, which makes it a very dynamic time. A lot of, you might be experiencing energies and lots of different aspects of your life that connect or disconnect. And the Pisces full moon on the 30th is significant because it is right next to Saturn in Pisces. And Saturn, as we've said, is a planet of maturing. It's coming up against restriction and proving that you can master some area of your life up against that restriction. It's the grandfather over your shoulder. So this Pisces full moon, while it's very spiritual and, you know, loving, as Pisces always is, there is a bit of like seriousness to it also, or a bit of like, we might feel what's restricting us and holding us back as well, because there is that tone to it with Saturn there. But yeah, I just talked a lot, but that's the week. It's a lot going on.
Oh, Heather, did you just talk a lot? Please, you got 5 minutes of getting the word in edgewise.
I threw a lot of astrological jargon.
No, but I mean there is just a lot. There's a lot of movement.
You can feel it. I mean,
you can literally feel it.
People are going through stuff.
We're feeling it. There's some huge shifts. I absolutely agree. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to feel it. We're here to ride those waves, tap into that energy. God, I just do feel like there's we've been talking about this for a while, Heather, but I really feel it now. And we've been doing this podcast for a year, and I like definitely just feel it even within this last year and returning to Virgo. And maybe it's the Mercury in retrograde, but there's an up leveling. There really is. I'm so secure in that. I really, really feel that. And I just like every day it feels like more and more people are getting in tune and in frequency and in a similar like vibration of this. Just there's the bigger like it just I can't explain it, but there's really, this movement is very exciting. As much as it's shifty and very kind of unstable right now, there's a excitement to it that I feel like a lot of us are feeling in a very
100%.
It might feel a little wobbly right now, but I think it's a really good place we're venturing to, if that makes sense.
I think so. No, absolutely. 100%.
We got to keep those third eyes open, y'all. You just got to keep them open. And but at the same time, control what you can control. Get your shit together. While the waves are rocky, all you can do is secure yourself in your boat, right? We can't focus on what happens if we get tipped over just yet. All we can do is take care of ourselves during this Virgo time. And then think about how that's going to affect the bigger collective during this Pisces full moon. Just so many energies, y'all. So much abundance. There's just so much abundance to this shit. It's really beautiful.
No, there is an opportunity to connect with the higher consciousness. Yes.
This personal earth time. Yeah. I love that we talked. I love that you reminded me too, Heather, that while Virgo is an earth sign, it's a relationship sign. And I'm really like the groundedness of, and like finding that within your relationships right now too is really, it's an interesting
And how can you
pull.
help each other? That's one of the best qualities of Virgo is it
loves
to be helpful to others.
Yeah.
It loves to be of service.
God, I love this energy. I do. It's been a little rocky, a little shaky, but it's for the greater good.
We can handle it.
We can handle anything that comes our way, folks. We got this. All right, Virgo season, we're here. We got a Pisces full moon on the way. Heather is gorgeous with a fresh cut. I'm gonna go shower and get a pedicure, bitch. It's Virgo season.
Yes.
Infinite abundance.
Love you so much. Infinite abundance.
Love you, Heather. Love you, listeners. We'll see y'all right back here next week. Keep it steady. Keep it grounded. Bye.